Let's go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, my LSU Tigers. Those of y'all that have watched the show, you know they are my national title pick. So I'm going to do my very best, stay objective here, non-biased when it comes to breaking down the intel out of what's happening on the Ponderosa. Garrett Nussmeier gave all of us a bit of a heart attack this past week when you start scrolling the Twitter feed and you say, oh my gosh, did Nuss hurt his knee? I've seen reports that Nuss has got an injury, he had to be helped off the field. I was told that was not the case. He walked off under his own power. Brian Kelly, from a strictly precautionary point of view, just said, you know what, Nuss, how about you sit out? You're our starting quarterback. Threw for over 4,000 yards last year. We're not worried about you when it comes to playing games this fall. Since that happened, media got to watch them scrimmage a little bit. Now, Garrett Nussmeier, I hate to say this, did not look 100%. Based on the folks that I talked to that were at that scrimmage, wore a knee sleeve during that scrimmage. Here's my thing. I'm not super concerned about this yet because this is a one-off and clearly something happened to where he sat out the rest of a practice, or at least Brian Kelly thought that was a good idea. Unless this persists, I'm not going to be worried about it. So in a one-off setting, okay, you wore a knee sleeve, not a knee brace, a knee sleeve. So we'll let that one ride. But Garrett Nussmeier, he's okay. He's practicing. Doesn't look 100%, but it's fall camp. I don't think anyone's 100% right now to begin with. Now, the defense is what I want to really focus on right now. They have more playable depth than they've had since Brian Kelly got there. Notice what I said, playable depth. You can have depth that you can't actually depend on. Like we're all, in the world of college football from a roster level, you have guys on your 3-deep. How many of those guys on the 3-deep do you actually trust? How many of those guys on the 3-deep are you actually asking to go play on a Saturday afternoon when you get into conference play in the SEC? The way that it was described to me is Blake Baker truly now has his guys on the defensive side of LSU. And I think that's really important to note because a year ago, you brought in Blake Baker and the defense was improved from what it was the season before with Matt House, but it wasn't up to LSU standards. You go to the portal. You do some work. Go get some pieces on the front seven. Go get some pieces in the secondary. I've been told this defense is legitimately playing at a different temperature, a different speed, playing fast. That front seven, with what they have on the edge, with Pyburn and Patrick Payton from Florida State, Bernard Gooden they got via the portal from USF, they've got some real disruptors on that defensive line that they think is going to match the standard of what LSU football expects to be. I've been told they're 4 deep at the D-tackle position. Remember a couple of years ago, we're talking about, we're not paying for players, what Brian Kelly said. I said more power to you, but they have since then paid for some players, some pretty good players, and that front seven should look very, very different. Harold Perkins, deep breath. Just roll with me now for a second. He looks good. Not just looks good, he looks more well-rounded, looks more comfortable out there. You know he can rush the passer. That's not the question. Anyone with a set of eyeballs that understands how football works knows that Harold Perkins off the edge is a freaking problem. What I've been told is he's playing the run game with more confidence. He's playing with more of a willingness, it sounds like, to go and fit in the run game. He's also looking pretty good in coverage. Sounds like him and Bauer Sharp, the transfer tight end from Oklahoma, had some good battles in the one-on-one. Like to hear that. Mansour Delane is a transfer DB from Virginia Tech. Sounds like he's kind of a Swiss Army knife pickup for them. Again, just another piece you can use in the back end. When you have a Swiss Army knife anywhere on your defense, what that says to me is it allows you to free up other guys to do more of what they're better at. Like a Swiss Army knife means you can do a lot of things. So Mansour Delane can do a lot of things, allows other guys to specialize. One guy that I think they're going to count on to specialize is 5-star corner DJ Pickett. Now, DJ Pickett, if you are over on the Bengal Tiger, the On3 LSU site, you know Shea Dixon, best in the business covering LSU, has been pounding the drum. Hey, listen, this dude's trending to start game 1 against Clemson. I know he's a true freshman. I know he's pretty skinny. He's going to start game 1 against Clemson. Now, DJ Pickett, shout out to you. It sounds like you've bulked up a bit since getting to LSU. He's listed at 6'5", 195. There was a point, though, during, I believe it was either the last practice or somewhere earlier on in fall camp, where DJ Pickett, if you were wondering about his physical readiness to play in college football, he has a rep in one-on-one against Nick Anderson, transfer wide receiver from Oklahoma, 6'4", 208 pounds. There's a jump ball in the end zone, and DJ Pickett's lined up one-on-one against Nick Anderson, and DJ Pickett wins that rep. Okay, now I mentioned Nick Anderson at that measurable I just gave you, the most physically imposing receiver on LSU's roster. So for DJ Pickett to win a rep like that, it's just one rep. But I would say, to me, that's like okay, he can do it. Now, can you do it consistently? Can you do it with the brightest of lights on, with Herbie and Fowler on the call when you go to Clemson and play against Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore? Like, we'll see. But to see your freshman bulk up and do things like that and to kind of check that box from an optics perspective, I think that's a good sign. I think that's a very good sign. So I'm talking a lot about the defense here because I think it's probably the thing that makes you the most nervous if you had to pick a side of the ball if you're an LSU fan. They might just be pretty good. Like, I'm not saying they're going to lead America in terms of takeaways per game and sacks and all that, but they might be pretty good, and pretty good for LSU this year with what they have on offense could make them the national champions, as someone may have on this show picked them to be. The wide receiver room is loaded. Chris Hilton, you're just, fingers crossed, hoping, praying every single night for that guy that he stays healthy, because when he's healthy, he's a dog. Barry and Brown transferring in from Kentucky, they've said he looked real good. Really excited about him. The tight end room is, in a word, stacked. I mentioned Bauer Sharp. He's one of those guys you keep seeing on the LSU socials for doing just like freakish stuff in the weight room and having a great summer in the offseason program. Excited about that. Also, Trey Green. He's like 6'12" or something. I mean, dude's monstrous. They're going to use him in the red zone in a pretty unique way. Like, they're going to move him around a lot. It's going to be a lot of different personnel groupings with this tight end room because of how much flexibility they have. Music to my ears. I'm an LSU fan. Big time advantage for Joe Sloan. And when you got a guy pulling the trigger that is Garrett Nussmeier, should be a lot of points. Now, the question you have, if you're an LSU fan, is, okay, well, what are we up front? Because JD, I think they got like 4 guys right now in an NFL camp that played last year on the offensive line. They're figuring it out, which is fall camp. So I'm going to try and kind of speak unassertively here about the LSU offensive line. Going to see what they are. It's inconsistent at times. It's still a work in progress. I think for LSU, though, what I was told is they just have to be serviceable with that group. Not dominant, not best in America, not best in the SEC, serviceable. Because they're so strong at every other position group on the offense, especially at quarterback, that you shouldn't have to block for 3 Mississippis to have success on offense. Because Garrett Nussmeier is playing a step ahead now at a mental level to where that ball is out quick in a perfect world. Now, the big question is, can you run block? Can you run block for Caden Durham? Can you run block for Harlan Berry, the high-tier freshman that you got that's already enrolled from the spring and now having a good fall camp, it sounds like. If you can do that, okay, now we're, I don't want to say 2019 territory, but I think that's what the firepower is for this unit. And that's a ridiculous comparison to make, but just stick with me. That's the vibe I get when you talk to people close to LSU on the offensive side of the football. So if you can run block now, you give Nussmeier some more windows downfield, you're more multidimensional as an offense in terms of game you can win. We'll see. We'll see. Now, last thing, I'm always curious to talk to people about the vibe, the people that are actually on the grass at a practice at any given school. The vibe right now at LSU is, for better or for worse, the focus is 110% on Clemson. Okay, now we talked to Brian Kelly, or we heard from Brian Kelly at Media Days, talked to Nussmeier at Media Days. They have the paw print on the bags they're hitting at practice, whatever. Like, it's all well and good. But it's been like doubled and tripled down on from people you talk to close to LSU. Like, no, it is about Clemson at a different level. And that comes from this feeling internally of, well, we cannot afford to start from behind again. Can't do it. Can't do it. Because with that schedule, you're going to know probably like early October where you stand in that college football playoff race. Like, you play LSU, play Florida pretty early on as well. You're going to have a pretty good gauge as to where you stand in regards to what your task is. Okay, do we got to be perfect in the month of November to find our way in the playoff? That's asking a lot of any college football team, but especially if you drop that first one. So a lot of focus on Clemson. If you get that win over Clemson week 1, though, the feeling is anybody who was potentially not bought in internally, but if you were maybe just going to be put out by a loss to Clemson and maybe start playing that mind game internally, if you beat Clemson, that might be the switch that flips it of like, no, actually, we are that team. We are good enough to go in it all. Let's go get it done. So a lot of good stuff out of LSU. A lot of good stuff over on the Bengal Tiger if you want to stay tapped into all things LSU. throughout fall camp and the rest of the college football season. Bryce Kuhn, Shea Dixon, Matthew Bruni doing a tremendous job over there, so get locked in.